Okay.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Joint Standards Committee meeting. This is a meeting of the Council which is being held remotely. The meeting is being recorded and streamed via YouTube, where members of the public are able to watch the meeting. The recording will be available on the Council's website following the meeting. Please note that any comments posted on the chat feed of the Council's YouTube page during the recording of this meeting will not be monitored by the Council. All members have been provided with the remote committee guidance note prior to the meeting. Please can this be adhered to during this remote meeting? Points include all mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted in tones. Please switch your profile to mute unless you are speaking. And if you wish to speak, please raise your hand in order that I am aware you wish to speak, or use the raise hand function. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone again. So item number 1 is apologies for absence.
Mr. John Quinlan, the IP, has indicated he'll be a bit late this evening.
Lovely, thank you. Item number 2 is membership of the Joint Standards Committee. So we have to note the following changes to committee: that Councillor Fellows has now been replaced by Councillor Blake. Welcome, Councillor Blake. And independent persons John Petherick and John Quinlan have now been reappointed for a further 2-year term ending on the 31st of October 2022. So welcome back and thank you very much for another 2 years service. Just flicking through my agenda to where I'm supposed to be. Apologies. Okay, so item number 3 is election of the Vice Chairman. I'm going to nominate Councillor Blake. Do I have any further nominations? No, I can't see any. Julie, do we need to take a vote on that if there's only one nomination? No? Perfect. And with that then, I will declare Councillor Blake the Vice Chairman of the Joint Standards Committee.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Agenda item 4 is declarations of interest. Anyone got one of those? Oh, and my laptop now popped up with something else marvellous. Councillor Headley?
The usual one, Chairman. I'm an elected member at Essex County Council, and they may have a similar code of conduct to the one that we may be discussing later.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Councillor Headley. Okay, agenda item 5 is a confirmation of the minutes from the meeting of our last meeting on the 2nd of December 2020. Do I have everyone's approval on those minutes? I need to take a vote on that. So if I come to Councillor Headley first.
Agreed.
Lovely. Councillor Blake?
Abstain as I wasn't there.
Councillor Devlin, you've got your hand raised. Oh, you're still on mute. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. I don't believe I was there. I think I sent my apologies in. Is that correct? Could be I've forgotten, but I don't think I was there.
I think you could be right, actually.
I think you were there. Yeah.
Maybe my notes as being there.
What?
It was on the 2nd of December.
Has there been one since?
You weren't at the one before, which was the 13th of October.
Oh, right, maybe it's that one then.
Go with that, that makes sense. Okay, and I vote for, so those minutes are carried as a true record. I will then move on to agenda item 6, which is the Local Government Association Model Member Code of Conduct.
Yes, Chairman, I just introduced briefly. I mean, I think all members of the Joint Standards Committee, we've been following this journey really through the Committee on Standards in Public Life, through the issues of best practice and the recommendations which the government's not yet responded to, but is expected to do so shortly. But as previously reported, the Local Government Association have been tasked with developing a model code of conduct, and members of the Joint Standards Committee who were present at that time will remember that we looked at the draft model code of conduct earlier in this municipal year. I think at that time, the committee had a number of reservations, and I think reflected on what was considered to be a very strong code of conduct that we had in place, particularly after we'd made some revisions in light of the best practice issues identified by the Committee on Standards in Public Life. The revised code of conduct, final code, model code of conduct, has now been issued, and that's attached to the agenda. From my perspective, I think it's fair to say it's better than the draft that we looked at. I think it's a lot better in that regard, and it's there really for the Joint Standards Committee to consider whether it recommends to the Basildon Council and local councils the adoption of that model code of conduct. There is expected to be guidance to accompany the model code of conduct, and that guidance has not been published yet. I think it quite early days, and in my view, I think I'm happy to take views and comments and discussion, but I think my recommendation to the Joint Standards Committee would be to defer the matter, hold it in abeyance until the beginning of the new municipal year. I think that allows for us to receive the guidance that accompanies it and to understand that. I think there's a few questions that have just been raised, issues of clarity around it, so it will allow them to come forward. It'll allow us to see what other local authorities and their response to it. And I think if we are looking to adopt a new code of conduct, then that's probably better done at the start of the new municipal year, rather than trying to deal with that now as we move into the election period, etc. So I wanted to report it to you at the earliest opportunity, so you're aware of that development. Obviously, members of the committee may have different views, but mine would be to note it at this time, and for us to report to the first committee in the new municipal year, and perhaps have a more specific discussion about its adoption at that time. But I'm happy to, interested to hear other members' views and any questions that I can assist with.
Thank you very much, Paul. Okay, Councillor Dear.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with Paul's recommendation that we should wait for further guidance. But may I ask a question about the papers that we have been, we've received? On page 13, towards the bottom of the page, it says 7 of 8 of local councils have accepted the new code of conduct. And in the next paragraph, it says 6 of 8. So could I just have an explanation why there's that difference?
Yeah, the report was updated just before it was published. I obviously missed the second reference. So it's actually 7 that have adopted it, just the one that's still outstanding.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Anyone else wish to come in on this one? Councillor Headley.
Having read the report, Chairman, I'm in agreement with the officer's conclusion and would suggest that we move to defer the consideration of the code until after the guidance is issued, and that it can then be brought back to this committee for further discussion before, I assume this has to be approved at full council anyway. So if I don't think we need to waste any more time until we get the guidance from the LGA, and I'm happy to move a motion that we defer it until that guidance is available.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Headley. I agree. There is no point in trying to push this through before we've got the complete guidance, and coming up to the end of the year, it's no point trying to rush something at all. So if all members are happy, I think we should agree that we note that we've received this and we'll be deferring it to the first meeting of the next municipal year. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yep.
I have a lot of nodding heads. Perfect. Is that all right, Paul, to do that? Yes.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I think you need to. I don't think you need to take a vote on that, Chairman. Obviously, we'll continue to communicate by email if there's anything of interest, but we'll bring a report back and hopefully we'll be in a better position at that time.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. With that, I will move on to, my goodness, we're flying through this. Agenda item 7, which is the Joint Standards Committee Annual Work Plan 21-22.
Yeah, Chairman, happy to give a brief introduction, but thanks to Julie again for the work around this. I think as it sets out, unable to report last year due to the absence of the council meeting, so it kind of covers the period since we last submitted a report, a requirement that we do, this Joint Standards Committee does report to full council on its work over the year. And I think it's there for any comments. I think, again, it sets out what I would consider to be a lot of work undertaken very effectively and efficiently by the Joint Standards Committee. And I'd just like to thank members, all members of the Joint Standards Committee that have contributed to that. But obviously it's there for you to make any comments, and we will report it to full council. That's likely now to be the annual council meeting. I think these are due to be reported to. We're going to struggle to make it for the 18th of March, but any comments on the content would be welcome. We're just looking for you to agree it. But as I say, thanks to Julie for her work in pulling this together.
Lovely. Oh, did you want to speak, Julie?
Yeah, sorry, just for clarification, Paul, I think you just reported on the annual report to full council rather than the work plan.
Sorry, you're right. I've jumped to agenda item 9, Chairman. My apologies. I saw the annual and I just jumped straight into that. So apologies, but I've made the introduction for item 9, so we save time later on the agenda. But just going back to item 7, yeah, the annual work plan just sets out the issues which we've identified for consideration in the next municipal year. Obviously, we'll supplement it, but I think it's always helpful just to have a guide to the types of issues that we'd look for you to consider, and it's there again for you to comment and endorse.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on the work plan for next year? I see a lot of shaky heads. Yes, Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, just surprising to see the election of vice chairman again for June 2021 when we've just done that today.
Happy to come back, Chairman. I think just to clarify for Robin's benefit, the council runs for municipal years which end at the annual council meeting in May. So at that time there'll be a reappointment of the chairman of the Joint Standards Committee and a reconstitution of the committee, and therefore the appointment which was just made is of Councillor Blake as vice chairman is simply to the end of this municipal year, which is the annual council meeting at the end of May. And as I say, the whole thing is reconstituted at the start of the municipal year, and that's why it'd be necessary to do that again.
Okay, yeah, it's just I read that and I saw vice chairman. We're not doing chairman as well, and if it's a new year.
The just to clarify again, Chairman, if I can, the chairman is appointed by the council at its annual council meeting, but the constitution provides that the vice chairman is appointed by the Joint Standards Committee. So it's just some constitutional issues around how positions are appointed to, and that's the rationale and reason for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry.
It's quite all right. Does anyone else, oh, excuse me, any further comments on the work plan for next year? No? Okay, do we have to take a vote on that?
Probably not necessary, Chairman. If members are happy to agree, indicate consensus. I think if anybody disagrees and wishes to vote against, then
speak very quickly.
Yeah, but otherwise we'll take it that the members are happy and there's a consensus for that.
Perfect. So that is the work plan for next year all set. So item 8 is update on standards complaints. Julie?
Yeah, it's the usual update on standards complaints. There's been quite a few, as you can see. Actually, there's 3 more to add to the list that have come in since the agenda was printed. And again, they're all against borough councillors. But lists there, most of the cases are now concluded. There's just 2 that are still in the initial stages, plus the new 3 that have been received.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that is noted.
I think just
And
to comment on that,
oh, yeah.
Chairman, if I can, obviously a number of complaints that have been investigated, more than we would normally get. But what the reason? But I suppose just to put on record, obviously the independent persons are having to work hard in supporting. So just a thanks to them for their support in dealing with them complaints, which is always welcome. But I would say a busy period at the moment, and just to acknowledge their contribution to that.
Thank you very much, Paul. And yeah, thank you to all the independent persons who did. It seems to have jumped considerably from where we were. I'm obviously not shouting at people enough. Okay, agenda item 9 is the Joint Standards Committee annual report to full council.
What I said earlier, Chairman, I think.
Deja vu. Deja
I
vu.
will save everyone the pain of me repeating it. But what I said earlier, welcome any comments on the report before it goes to full council.
Perfect. Do I have any comments on this one from any members? Julie?
Yeah, just to say that obviously for this year's annual report, I added the 3 extra complaints. The number on there was the date up to when the agenda was published, so I need to add those 3 in.
Perfect. Okay, if no one has any comments, I would just like to say thank you very much to Paul and Julie for all the work that's gone into this year, and obviously all the other officers that are there as well. Thank you very much to the independent persons for the work you've put in with all our lovely complaints. And thank you very much to members for holding such reasonable meetings over the course of the year. I'd like to know that is appreciated. Smooth running is a wonderful thing. And I believe this is actually our last meeting, isn't it, of the year. So thank you very much, everybody, and hopefully I'll see you next year.
Take care.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
and in time for football as well. That's marvellous. Well
what
done.
can I say? What can I say?
Cheers.
Thank
care,
you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Cheers, thank you.
Night.
Good night, all.
Good night.